Just a few weeks ago, the bishop was having a meeting with the younger clergy of the diocese, and we were discussing our favorite Marian images. So naturally, the bishop decided to go around the room and ask what our favorite image was. So there were a lot of choices and a lot of different options. When it came to me, I had a very simple answer, that I've always been attached to the image of Madonna with child. It's just a simple image of Mary holding the child Jesus. And why is also very simple, because I see the purity of a love of a mother. And that love of a mother is not just the love of a mother, but also the love of someone who knows the love of her Lord. And it's a beautiful image, and it reminds us of that, and even invites us in, that it shows us not only the love that God has for Mary, but also the love that Mary has for her Son, and then for each and every one of us. And today we gather to celebrate the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And this is not the conception of Jesus, as has often been said, but this is the conception of Mary in the womb of St. Anne. That she was preserved, that Mary was preserved from original sin by a singular grace in anticipation of the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. That God saw it as necessary and important to preserve the Blessed Virgin Mary from the stain of sin so that she could be that ultimate and worthy receptacle and dwelling place of the Lord for those months before he emerged and was born. And that's a beautiful thing, that we're allowed to see these mysteries that happened so long ago and are yet so powerful and so important. That the Lord was working even before Jesus appeared on the earth. And as we behold that, we might think, well, that's great for the Blessed Virgin Mary, and it might foster within us further devotion to Our Lady. But what does it mean for us? Or what can we take away that's concrete from this very moment? There's a couple of things I would point to. That we recognize that the Lord took care of this very small detail of Mary's life because he saw it as necessary and important. Mary didn't have to lift a finger. She wasn't even able to choose at the time. And yet our Lord took care of that for her. Even in the moments before she had the ability and facility to choose to trust the Lord, there it was. He was already working. And if the Lord is able to work in the Blessed Virgin Mary in such a way, why would he not work with us? Why would he not take care of the details of our life? Why would he not busy himself with what matters to us and is important to us? And so it is important for us to realize, especially by this example, just how much the Lord wants to be involved with your life and with mine. The ways that the Lord wants to be involved with the situations, the realities, where we are. The Lord wants to interact in those places. If he's interacting with the Blessed Virgin Mary in such a way, he could interact with us as well. But the thing that often blocks that is our lack of trust. That we feel like we have to take care of things on our own. That we have to put in our energy. We have to figure it out in our own way. And yet so often that way, it takes us away from God and moves us further and further out. But the reality is the Lord is inviting us into communion with him and into that relationship of trust. So that the God who has providence for the Blessed Virgin Mary and was preparing the way for his Son has providence for us too, and does indeed care for even the smaller things within our day-to-day life. It just requires that trust, and that trust that Mary shows us so well later on in her life. So that would be one thing to take away. And then the other thing is how God treats sin. Now, we don't like to use the word hatred so much, and yet it is appropriate in this way. That we know that God hates and despises sin. Not the sinner, the sin. That he does not like sin. He does not like sin so much that even the scourge of original sin, he saw it as not befitting to be a part of Mary's life because she would be bearing the Christ child. And so he removed that iniquity, that impurity, even as she was conceived in the womb. And we should see that as indication that God does not want us to entertain sin either. Certainly we are washed from original sin in baptism, even though Mary was preserved far earlier. but we also know that personal sin is a reality as well. Venial, the smaller ones; mortal, the greater ones. That God also hates those. He does not want impurity to reign in our hearts. He does not want us to experience this infidelity or these things that hold us back in our relationship and our acceptance of His love. And so indeed, we should see that as encouragement to jettison sin from our lives, to get rid of it, to cast it aside, to remove from us everything that holds us back in our life of faith, to approach and beat down the door of the confessional so that we too can start to be purified and made holy yet again, time and time again, no matter how long it takes. That the Lord does despise sin. He doesn't want us to struggle and to suffer underneath its burden, but He in fact wants us to be free and to be pure, as the Blessed Virgin Mary was pure even from the very first moments that she was existing in the womb. And that is what we were given to consider today. This beautiful purity of a Madonna and child, this beautiful purity of one who was preserved from the stain of original sin, even from the first moments of her conception. May that lead us into further trust of our Lord and our God, who took care of the Blessed Virgin Mary in His providence. And may it also lead us away from sin and towards that same purity with which the Blessed Virgin Mary was graced by God. We celebrate the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary today. May we continue to see the way that it impacts us, challenges us, and encourages us on in our life of faith.